Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing today? I'll tell you, it has been a week. It has been a week. I want to hear some comments from the people out there in the audience. Today, we have an extra special guest. This is the inventor, creator of PDR interviews. That's right. The man, the myth, the legend. You know, everybody's been talking to this guy and talking to him about, the questions that he's asking. Well, it's time to ask him some questions. Definitely have some things that he's making faces at me here in the purgatory room, and I can keep him there if he doesn't act right, But hey, I want to let everybody know that today's show is brought to you by PDR Interviews. Our sponsors are Mobile Tech Shade. Again, simply the best. And then we've got Dent Man Tools, and Jesse, and Warm Apple Pie is once a week on this bad boy. And if he isn't, we're going to get after him. But let me introduce to you and to the world, Randy Hobson. This gentleman here, Randy, I'm quite honored to be the one interviewing him. And I still haven't brought him on. See, I could talk and talk and not even bring him on yet. You see what I'm doing here? I'm getting him ready. I'm prepping. So I wanted to let everybody know that Randy has something that he wants to say. In fact, I'm going to turn my air compressor off. Boy, that's loud. But Randy has something to say here today, and he had actually called me. Before I bring him on, I want to kind of let everybody in on this story. Randy had called me, and he wanted to let me know the questions to ask. He wanted for the dentologist to be scripted. And you know what? I couldn't do that for my audience. I couldn't do that to my audience. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on here, and I'll let you know I've got all my questions lined up. I'm ready for Randy. So let's go ahead and welcome Randy in here. Let's go ahead and bring him on in. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I know. You're acting like you can't speak. I already know it.
Well, you're a dirty little rotten. Good morning. How are you?
I had to call you out before you came on, man.
Oh, I was just talking to the guys in the shop, and I was talking to Kevin Bird earlier, and I said, I tried to call Ian last night, just kind of give him the questions that I wanted to be asked. And yeah, Ian said, you know what? This is my show, and I'll ask you the questions that I want to ask. And I was like, okay.
That's right. I love it.
Too funny.
I love it.
Too funny, man.
Well, hey, let's start this thing out, man. I've got some questions, but I wanted to kind of open up with this. Randy, you are the creator of PDR Interviews. And I remember probably 3 years back, you had asked me if I'd give an interview and kind of share my story and stuff. And since then, since that Mobile Tech Expo time, I remember it vividly. I remember that you had a headache that day. I remember that there was that your buddy was in the room. What was his name? He was in the room interviewing. You guys had worked together before doing Hail. You don't see, I'm good at remembering that stuff. I just can't remember names. I can't remember any of the names.
Let's see, who was that? I should remember this. Hopefully he's watching and say it was me.
Yeah, somebody comment.
Oh, you know what? No. It was Shane Farland, and he's a technician out of North Dakota.
Right.
He has a body shop and does PDR, and a great guy. I've known him probably 15 years. So
okay.
Yeah.
He was in there. We were interviewing. You were asking questions and everything. Who would have known that since then? You've interviewed quite a few people, some heavy hitters, from the leaders of the industry to, people, everyday people that no one really knew about, nor did they know their story or even know where they came from or would have ever have met them. And I have to say thank you, like so many other people out here. You were the creator of this. You were the one that brought this, into the mix here where now you kind of put a name with a face and a story, to back it up. So I hope that I can keep on that legacy like you've created, because I'll tell you, it's a big shoes. So there's some big shoes to fill. Most definitely.
I tell you what, it's been an honor. It's honestly been an honor to serve the community, our PDR community like this, as you've seen for this last year. And let me quickly say that there was so many things happening, 3-4 years ago on social media where everybody was bashing everybody. And you know
Right.
what? Possibly people are. I don't pay attention to a lot of the pages because I really stay away from negativity. I try to. Listen, I think we all get caught up in negativity to an extent. And you have to learn how just to kind of clip it and just step away from it. And I think what this has bred, and David Haxton and I talked about this a lot before I started this. And you really have to breed, positivity breeds positivity as well as negativity does as well. And there was so much negativity happening within our industry, one versus another. And, the guys typing out their comments, and a lot of times texting and typing messages doesn't come across in the same manner as what it's really meant to. So some of that could be taken offensively. And there was a lot of negativity that was being broadcasted out there. And I think this was just a tool to help people get to know each other, that, you know what, that guy typing behind there, who is he really?
Right.
Or who is she really? And I think it's been a
You've
great
done an excellent job,
everybody.
man, to put a name with a face and a story. And I'll tell you, I love going back through some of your interviews, specifically mine, and just watch myself. But, I really like going, no, I'm joking. I like going through these interviews and, getting to know people. But it's like for the young techs coming up, to be able to see that, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have gone through trials and tribulations in this business, especially the ones like myself that have been in it forever. We don't have any magic wand. We're not successful because we went and read a book. We're successful because we went and we dug our heels in and we work hard at what we do. And we try to do the best job possible. But to have each person's story on there documented on a video, man, it's great. And that's why you're here today. That is why you're here. So I'm going to tell you what, I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Before you do that, hold on. But before you do that, let me say thank you to you, Ian. You've done an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
This year. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you may have missed a week here or there when you've been traveling, but your intros that you're doing for all these guys, I know how much time and energy goes into this. And everybody listening, please press like right now and just kind of applaud Ian by pressing like a bunch of times. I can't see anything, so I hope there's 1,000, hearts and likes going up there. There you go. Just because it takes so much work, and I don't think guys behind the scenes really understand all the amount of love and labor that you put into that, as well as Jesse and now Frank Sell and Skip Phipps. A special thanks to all you guys, because
good people.
You're making this happen. And this is kind of like turned into a radio show, but on Facebook. And it's really just for our industry, which is really, really cool. But Ian, if I could give out one of those big golden honor awards, it would definitely go to you on PDR interviews, because all the time and energy you put into this. So everybody, please like his page. Please support Ian and his family by buying a mobile tech shade.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Even if you don't need one, everybody needs one just to cover up in the sun. Okay. And real quick on this mobile tech shade, before you continue, on the mobile tech shade, it doesn't matter if you're a detailer, if you're a paint touch-up person, if you're a interior repair person, it doesn't matter who you are. Definitely it was designed for PDR technicians. There are so many mobile technicians out there that need this to help keep them out of the sun.
That's right.
And part of my story has something to do with the sun, and we'll move on. But thank you.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear it. But what these guys, especially the people that are just coming on, that don't know you, they don't know me. They're, maybe somebody turned them on to the show. Maybe they've just all of a sudden clicked through. They don't know where you reside, where you live, who Randy is.
Sure.
Then we can kind of go into the story here. So first question, I'm going to go right off the bat here.
All right.
Do you ever plan on retiring?
No, I don't.
You see, neither do I. And I'll tell you, there's so many technicians that you ask this question. And dude, most guys, I mean, how many jobs or careers or trades could you even bring up a subject like this? And most of the time, it's the guys that are retiring that are thinking about getting into PDR. They're like, you know what? I'm retiring. from my career, and I'm going to get into something that I really, that's going to interest me. Now, granted, it doesn't always work that way, but I have that conversation brought up to me a lot that, when I retire, I'm going to do dent repair, So I'll tell you, I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. I like the money too much. And I couldn't imagine not being able to spend it like I do. Next question. Where do you work?
So I work for myself, and it's a company called Dent Trust USA, right there. And I specialize in hail repair. I travel across. Dent Trust, a company you can trust.
That's right. So don't worry, you can trust them. Where do you reside?
That's right. So my wife and I live in Washington, Missouri, which is about an hour outside of downtown St. Louis. It's in Rolling Hills. We have wineries. We have 50 wineries within an hour from our house. It's Rolling Hills, and Missouri River goes off through there. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. And that's where I reside.
Sounds like where I live.
From St. Louis.
Sounds like where I live.
I can't wait to come out.
A lot of wineries nearby. So, I do have a couple more questions, but what I wanted to ask you was, if you were to say, if you were to sum it up in a brief paragraph on where you see PDR going right now at this moment, what would you say about it? Where would you say it's going here in the near future?
I can say one person's name that I think is on the right track. It's Mike O'Grady. I think he's on the right track. Glue pulling. I believe the future of this is going to be glue pulling, especially with all the sensors and everything in the vehicles.
I agree.
I think everybody has to focus on their abilities to do more glue pulling, and not just enough where you can push it out, but enough where you can finish it. So that's, to put it in a nutshell, that's where I
never touch the backside. Never touch the backside on big damage.
Yes.
That's what's crazy about Mike.
Absolutely.
He's definitely opened my eyes. He's definitely
opened my eyes. A lot of people will make about some of Mike's comments. I was just going to say, a lot of people make some comments about Mike's comments about only glue pulling. But if you're going to ask me where I believe the future is going, I think that's where we should all focus our time at.
Right. No, I'll tell you, Mike is so educated. He's educated himself, not just on how to do the dents with glue only, but the different manufacturers' guidelines on, what can be done, and the mills of paint. And from BMW to Mercedes, if you have a question about something, which I'm going to get that guy on the show, but if you have a question about any type of glue pulling apparatus, what the paint manufacturers are saying, what's acceptable, what isn't, man, that guy is unbelievably knowledgeable when it comes to that. Where we got here, we got a couple of people. We got Bruce here. Bruce always, Bruce Halverson always has a couple things to say, no matter who I have on here, and I love him for it. I really do. We got Kevin Bird. We got several other people in here. So now comes a couple of the serious questions here, Randy. And that is, who is Randy Hobson? How did you get into this trade? How old were you? What kind of setbacks have you had from the time you started to now? And where do you see yourself moving forward? Where do you see yourself going here in the future for the industry and for your own personal gain?
Well, wow, there's about 3 questions in there.
It's a whole genre of stuff. You got to come at it.
Yeah. First of all, I learned, I have advertised in 1993 as I really figured out it's really about the 94 era. It's all real close, but all my advertising says 93 because I always thought the great floods of the Midwest is right after that's when I got involved in it. And that's how I always time-based it. And actually, as I did more of a time lapse, it was really about 94. But all my literature only has 93 on it, so I kind of just stuck with
Roll with it. Roll with it.
I think, yeah. So PDR, Matt Wilson hired me, right in 94-ish, right in that time span. And I'm very blessed that he brought me on and trained me. And I was able to actually go work with him for the last year before I broke back out with Dent Trust again. And just a great company, Dent's Express, great people over there, great team. But prior to that is when I had I had a lot of issues in life. But I would say because of my training with PDR and taking that and going further is what really enabled me to live again and strive again. And when I say that, maybe I'll have a moment here to go into my past. So I'd say I have to give the benefit to that. And I'm also say that I'm a Christian and I don't like to preach too much, but I give all the glory to God for everything that's happened in my life. And I'm not trying to preach here, but if you stay with me, I hope you guys can see where I came from. My story is quite different than anybody else. And I have not ever done this publicly, shared this. So it might be a little tough. One thing I've asked with PDR interviews is that people are very open and honest. And over the last couple of years, I've never told my story. So this is a good opportunity. And Ian, thank you for
you had some stuff. You had some really, I mean, stuff that normally people don't ever have to deal with. And you kind of enlightened me on this. I never knew about this, but let people know, you had something happen tremendous in your life that you really had to kind of make do. You had to kind of overcome, and I want everybody to know about that because that's huge, man. It shows your character. It shows that nothing's going to knock you down. With God by your side, you're going to make it happen. Well, without keep talking about it, let everybody know about what that is.
So when I was 24, I was married, and at the point I thought I had 3 children, and at the point I did have 3 children. I know this sounds confusing, but and if I stutter or anything, just kind of go with
me.
Man. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever
told
the story with, within our industry. A lot of other guys that work with me understand, know about this. A lot of the technicians that have worked for me are just good friends in the industry, understand this. But when I was 24, I got sick, and I had a heat stroke. So when I said about Mobile Tech Shave, there you go. I had a heat stroke when I was 24 years old, and the result of that, I had amnesia.
Wow.
I had something that's called retrograde amnesia, and it went from 24 to birth. I'll get through it.
You're all right, man. That's what we're all here for, is to back our brethren up, man. Stories like this is so huge. So it was amnesia. It wasn't a stroke. It wasn't anything like that. It was literally heat stroke that from the sun of being outside hot or overheated, correct?
Yes. And the result of that, I was married, and I thought I had 3 children, but my wife had already had a child, and then find out I had 2 children. And I didn't even know that until our divorce came up. And I remember, somebody explained that I only had paid child support on 2 children. And I was just like, 2, I have 3. And that's actually when I realized that, okay, I didn't realize I didn't realize that I had 2 children instead of 3. So there was a lot of things that just didn't come together for me for a very long time. I'd say the first 10 years. I had to relearn pretty much balancing a little bit, going up and down stairs, reading and writing, many English words and vocabulary. To this day, I don't know any of the past movies, past songs, church songs, because my mother raised me in church. So
it was devastational.
I
mean, was this overnight, emotional. Randy, or was this a gradual thing? Did this happen just all of a sudden, like you woke up one day and there it is, or was it gradual over time?
Well, Ian, that's kind of a dumb question. It's amnesia. You just, I'm sorry, I'm having fun with
I forget. I don't know.
You have to find
dude, I don't know. I have no idea. So anyways, hey, welcome everybody. We're here at the show interviewing Randy Hobson. Right. No, I thought none of my questions were stupid, dude. Thank you. I appreciate that. So go on.
So listen, it's like waking up and you don't even know who you are. You don't know where you're placed at or anything. People are telling you who you are. You really don't understand it. I remember like rehab. They didn't have rehab, like they do nowadays, 30 years ago. And let me explain that to everybody. This has been 30 years ago. I was never supposed to work ever again, drive a car ever again, anything. Something funny about driving a car. I remember going in and renewing my driver's license, and the lady or man, whoever it was across the counter, asked me, said, "Would you like to renew your motorcycle license?" And I remember being like a little kid. I'll never forget. So I'm like, "I got a motorcycle license?" And yeah. The old fake it till you make it is really what I did for so many years. Really faked a lot of things and just kind of watched people and learned by everything around me. It's amazing how quick our brains can actually relearn things. And I give God glory for all this, because honestly, they were ready to put me in a home for the rest of my life. And I'm thankful. Something inside of me kept on saying, "I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay." And because I could sense my own self learning as I was going. It's almost like learning PDR. It just takes time.
And that's another thing that's Randy. So you're saying that you knew PDR before this happened, correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. No. I learned it about 3 years after this mishap.
Wow.
So, but
I was going to say, learning PDR twice, man,
day,
that would be a feat. That would be crazy, to learn it twice.
I'm still trying to learn it.
I am too, buddy. I am too.
So PDR actually saved my life as far as giving me a way to raise these kids. I did get remarried, had another child, and it just gave me a way to provide. And I think it's awesome. I love it. I'm not so much in love with pushing those dents anymore as much as I am just our industry and the business as a whole.
So, if you could do it all over again, I know this is a hard question because you've had so much trial and tribulation because of that. But if you had to do it all over again, what would you change? You just kind of think about that too. What would you change in your life or go back and do differently, starting over?
Okay. We can't change anything. But looking back at the whole big picture, I would make sure that I chose, and no offense to my ex-spouse, but I would make sure that I chose a person that was right for me, as I did. Lisa's a wonderful, wonderful lady. I'm so blessed to have her. But I think some of the heartaches, because when listen, I travel for Hale, and she married me knowing this as a Hale technician. And I think, especially for Hale technicians, the single guys out there, when it comes time to getting married, either do one of two things. Make sure that you choose a spouse who understands this, or secondly, make sure that you get out of chasing Hale so you can actually raise your family.
Right.
I was married and had a son, and I did get divorced after that.
Marriage is a hard thing, man.
Really, really hard.
Marriage is not easy. It can be great. Yeah. It's not an easy thing. And the more years that you're married, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very hard thing that you got to put the work into, and you have to try your best to, I know I fall short of that all the time. I know my wife's watching this here. Yeah, you do. You stinking sucker. Especially after I left this morning, there's always something that I've done, but yeah, that's hard. Marriage is tough, man. And there's no perfect pick. Do you agree? There's nobody that you could just go out and just say, it has been absolute bliss since day one. No, it just doesn't work like that. So you have to work at it,
You have to be on the same page, and you have to stay on that same page.
Right.
Both parties.
That's right.
Both parties have to stay on that same page. So find somebody that really does value all the same values that you value.
Right. Hey, you could,
there you go.
if you could chisel someone's face and on my misspelled Mount Rushmore, who would it be?
One person or the entirety?
You know what?
So
If you
okay,
could start
so
all over again
that's
with
one of
that
the
Mount
questions that
Rushmore,
I
what would it
asked
be? Who would you chisel on there?
for the PDR side. Correct?
Oh, it could be. I mean, could be Eddie Van Halen, dude. You know, you might like the way he plays guitar. You know, whatever it is, you let me know.
Okay, so I'm going to stick with the PDR side because I
Okay.
think this is what PDR interviews is all about anyway. So the first one I'm going to put on there is going to be Kevin Halewood. He has changed our he has he has he has taken his mind and formatted us like clay into an industry that we were just a bunch of pebbles and rocks all across the country or the
Mm-hmm.
world. So hats off to Kevin Halewood, very good friend, and he's the owner of, or he was the past owner of Mobile Tech Expo for the ones that don't know, and he's really brought our industry together. The second would be Natalia Balderrama. Uh, he didn't have any impact on my life, but he did so many hundreds out there
Man,
that were trained by him through Dent Wizard, and he's a great man. I had a great opportunity to sit with him a couple years ago at the Mobile Tech Expo. Him and Tom Price, and we was up in Tom's room for at least 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. It was a wonderful, just a wonderful experience to meet him. He's a great man, and I hope to have him on
he's
the
a
show one
devout
of these
Christian,
days. The
too,
third,
as well.
he
You
is
know, he's a good guy.
The third, a third person I would say would be Jerry Powell, and his story is going to be coming this winter through his family. I've been in contact with them. I just haven't had time. And to everybody with PDR interviews that are waiting for Monday interviews, I apologize. I have reception, but I can't use my laptop here because there's no Wi-Fi here, so I'm just on my phone today. But Jerry Powell brought a lot to our industry, and I remember competing against Jerry with his hail teams, and they were impossible to get those accounts if I found Jerry was in there.
Hmm.
So hats off to his legacy that he's left behind. And the other one would be Jurgen Holzer, who trained Don Cavanaugh, and I was able to sit down with him for a couple hours last year.
Mm-hmm.
Don and I went to dinner with him, and then he came by, and really sweet man. Him and Natalio have such a cool story that people just don't even know of the beginning stages. They were competing against each other. And to know that I've met both of them privately and have sat and talked with them, they're very similar. They're about the same age, and they both came here from different countries about the same
Right.
time span. And they didn't know each other. And honestly, uh, when I was piecing people together who had trained and started in the PDR industry in the beginning, some reason I kept on thinking that these two had to be like best friends, and
Right.
they got into PDR hiccups with each other and never spoke to each other again, as so many of
Yeah.
them do, so many of us do. And I just had a sense that was it, and that's not it at all. One came from Argentina, one came from Germany. They have amazing stories, both of them, working in the plants and coming here to the United States to start a PDR business.
Right.
And but they were not together at all. And then they end up, competing against each other. Um, so I
It's
think
unbelievable how many
those guys
technicians
are the
now
guys.
and what they've created, their legacy. It's unbelievable. Don Cavanaugh, I mean, and then you look at all the different, technicians that are still being trained, and that all comes from what Natalia started, man. I mean, it's pretty interesting when you really put the tree. In fact, that would be something that would be super interesting, would be to put a PDR tree together from the top, because
Yeah,
Natalia
yeah,
and Jurgen, those guys had to learn from somebody. Those guys learned from, where's that tree go? And that would be pretty cool.
right.
We got Stanliner, we've got some other people in the industry. I think that would be super interesting. There's another chore for you, Randy.
Sure. Yeah.
There you go. You got a tree to put together, brother.
Yeah. Well, it's been planted, so maybe somebody else help do that
Yes.
part.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it would be
that would be
quite
very
interesting.
I've always kind of visualized that.
So now you have your son, you've mentioned him several times. In that whole story, you were saying that you might have had three, you knew you had two. And I've seen the one son. What talk about your family a little bit. Talk about your young ones.
Sure. So my oldest daughter is Micah. She has two children. I have two grandchildren from her. And my second oldest daughter is Megan, and she's married to Adam Fountain, who's one of the techs. Adam started with us, I don't even know, 7, 8 years ago. He just had an opportunity to work with him again. We hadn't worked together in 5 years. Last week on a storm in Nebraska, which was just awesome being around him again. And they have two daughters, and just my kids are so awesome. And then my wife, she has two children, Lisa, and between all of them, we have 10 grandchildren. And then I have my son, Jake, who's 23, working for Garmin, and he gets some good hookups on Garmin stuff for a lot of the PDR guys. They're fishermen, and everybody likes that. But a cool thing about Jake within our industry was he started doing R&I for me when he was 10 years old. I'll never forget. He took out he might have took out 2 or 3 screws out of a Honda Accord sun visor. And that's all he did. And I think he got one back in, and the other one he started stripping, so I did it. And I will never forget that entire summer when he was 10 years old, and for the next year, he'd just walk around and boast like every Dent guy,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, I'm an R&I guy. I do R&I. I travel cross country with my dad.
That's awesome.
I do all the R&I for him. He took out 3 screws, buddy. And I know he'd
laugh.
Hey,
you know what? But you build that confidence confidence in your sons or your daughters, by instilling something on them or having them do something that they feel important,
Yes.
And I can't tell you, that's how, that's what my dad did for me. I tried to do it for my sons, and it really does give them a sense of worth, and that's what people need. There's not enough of that nowadays, Randy. There really isn't,
Yeah. So he was able to travel with me, and one of the coolest stories I can remember about Jake, I have so many to remember because he spent so much time with me traveling. But when he was 15 years old, we were doing a Subaru dealership up in Michigan, and Bill, the owner, liked my son so much, and my son was 15 years old, and he saw him out there doing R&I, and he goes,
right.
I remember he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, that's your son?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "And he's only 15." He goes, "Yeah, I'm not really supposed to have him work here." And I went, "I apologize. It's my time with him, and he goes, "You know what? It's a family-owned business. He seems like a good young man. Just leave him." At the end of the storm, my son, he was 15, saw this car on the Wholesale road that he just really, really liked. It was a Chevy Cavalier. It was a 4 or 5-speed. It was from Canada. It was all metric. So he wanted that car. Didn't even have hubcaps. It was a $2,500 car.
Right.
And he wanted that car. So I went to Bill and said, "Hey, my son would like to buy that." He goes, yeah, here, $2,500. And I will never forget taking this car for a spin. And it ran so tight, but it was in metric. And my son looks over and goes, "Dad, you're going 100 miles an hour." So he thought the car was so cool. Anyway, Bill actually gave him that car for doing such a great job.
That's great.
He was given his first car by a dealer. Yeah, just kind of a neat story.
It is a great
all
story.
because of PDR. So,
I got into PDR because of a dealership owner that my dad knew, and that was my foot in the door. He didn't sell me. He didn't, talk me up or do anything. It was all on me. But it was that first connection of, having somebody introduce me to him. And then it was, him stepping back and, don't give me the reins. You know what I'm saying? So I'll take them. That's the way I've always been. Yeah. But Randy, what a great story. What a great life that God has gifted both of us with, and the fact that you have started this PDR interviews, absolutely. The fact that you're still with us, man. Amen. That's awesome, dude. I can't tell you how excited I am for the future of what it holds for you and for me. So I'll tell you, reach out to Randy, everybody. Find Randy. He'll talk your ear off. It's all good talk. And I'll tell you, it's nothing but great stuff with Randy. Good things happen. What I've noticed with Randy is it's always been a positive vibe. There's always been good things that have come about our friendship. And I appreciate that, buddy. I appreciate you telling your story and letting me interview you too.
Ian, thank you, man. I really appreciate the time, and thank you again, and thanks to each one of our hosts. And you know what? More than that, thanks to everybody who watches us, who likes us, who shares us. Thank you guys so much. I mean, this wouldn't be this couldn't happen if you guys wasn't there. And for everybody that's been on the show, thank you guys so much for
Yes.
coming on and just sharing your story with us, because everywhere I go, people are like, man, I saw when you had this guy or on that guy. And really I really never wanted to share my story, but I felt like if I didn't show you guys where I come from, then it's not really right for me to ask you guys where you're coming from, or to be open and honest. So
Man, everybody's talking about how
mine kind
awesome
of gets
you are,
emotional,
Randy.
and it's still hard to this day. So
Everybody's talking about how awesome you are,
thank you.
dude. We
Thank you, guys.
appreciate you, man, and thank you all for watching. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap it up with that, man. Again, reach out to Randy, everybody.
All right,
If you haven't talked to Randy, he's the type of guy, he'll answer your call. He'll chat with you. Who knows? If you're around the area, you might have a glass of wine with you or go fishing with you, just like the video.
Absolutely.
So, Randy, thanks again
absolutely.
for coming on.
I can't wait to
man.
see that video too. Thank you, Ian. Be blessed. Bye-bye, guys.
All right, buddy. Another great interview. Absolutely awesome. I can't tell you how excited I was to have the opportunity for him to say yes, that he'd let me interview him. And then when I started to hear about, his story and the things that he had gone through and the trials and tribulations, we all go through tough times. We all have bumps in the road. But that's just it, is you have to pick your bootstraps up and you have to keep pushing forward. 30 years in the industry, I'll tell you, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. I'll tell you that. But, for the most part, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change it for the world. So we have such a great industry, and the people that are in it are awesome too. So with that, be good to yourself, be kind to others, and remember our sponsors, Mobile Tech Shade and Dent Man Tools, along with PDR Interviews, where this all got created from. And my name is Ian Cordle. I'm the dentologist, and that is an end to the show. Guys, have a wonderful day. See you next week.